Um,
You connect to the network.
we don't see the presentation.
That's okay. All right, my watch shows 5:30 p.m. So let's go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Metcalf Avenue Improvements, 91st Street to 99th Street Public Information Meeting. My name is Tony Rome, and I'm a senior civil engineer for the city of Overland Park and the project manager on this project. Just like an in-person meeting, we have some housekeeping items to go over. So I guess at this point, I want to make sure people can hear me. Councilmember Kerrigan, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself?
Gotcha, Tony. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This meeting is being conducted remotely using the online virtual meeting tool to reduce the spread of COVID-19. I would like to review our procedures for conducting tonight's meeting. Microphones of all participating members in the meeting should be muted at all times as not to impede the ability of meeting participants and observers to hear the proceedings. Attendees who wish to speak will use the raise hand feature of Zoom or *9 to be recognized to speak. Attendees will be recognized by the host, Kyle, and unmuted. Please state your name and address prior to asking your question when we get to that stage of the meeting. For the panel, which at this point includes those of us in the room and one council member, each time you speak, please state your name so that other participants and those listening to or observing the meeting will know who is speaking. For those of us in the room, you can't, we have masks on, so you might not know who's talking. So we'll do our best if we go around the room to raise our hand and introduce ourselves. Once again, I'm Tony Rome, City of Overland Park. I guess just before we get started, I will ask the panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Kyle.
Okay. Kyle Dickman, Supervisory Civil Engineer for the City of Overland Park.
Shane Stanley, a project manager for Finnis Corp, for the design consultant.
Guy Alon, I am the traffic representative on this project.
And then I believe we just have Councilmember Kerrigan on the line. Is that right?
That's the only one I see. Yep, Tom Kerrigan. I'm a council member for Ward 3, which 99th is the northern boundary.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councilmember. So I thought we'd be able to have this meeting in person, but a couple of months ago, we kind of made the decision to stick with a Zoom meeting. And I think that was a wise choice, I guess, given the recent outbreak or spread or whatever of COVID-19 variant. But I'm going to try sharing my screen real quick here. So just to give you a feel for how the night's going to go, It's not a long presentation. We're gonna kind of go over an overview of the project, kind of a 10,000-foot view, real high level. We'll go a little bit over the project schedule. We will go over the appraisal and acquisition process, which should be fairly minimal on this project. We'll talk about utilities a little bit, restoration after construction, and then take any questions. So I'm going to switch. Sorry, I got to switch screens around here. All right, so a general overview of the project. Essentially, we're going to take Metcalf Avenue between 91st and 99th Street. And we're going to do a mill and overlay on it. You see those around the city a lot of times. And we're going to raise the median in the middle. So the current roadway is a depressed median ditch left over kind of from when Metcalf was the state highway through here. We're going to add storm sewer where necessary. We're going to add curb and gutter to the edge of the pavement in the median. We're going to update the sidewalk and ramps where necessary. We are going to replace we're going to replace signals at 4 of the intersections. And I will go over that as we kind of go left to right on the map here. We're going to repair and replace side street tie-ins to all the side streets and the commercial entrances. We're going to do replace the street lighting, pavement markings and signing. We are going to bury power lines along the corridor and areas and portions of the corridor. And then finally, we're going to include some landscaping and restoration. So just to kind of give you a bird's eye view of the improvements, this is kind of a conceptual exhibit of how it's going to look. We're going to start at 99th Street and we're going to tie into the intersection. We are going to replace the signal at 99th Street. We're going to keep it 6 lanes up through here. The first major change you're going to see is at 97th Street. We're going to stripe out one of the northbound left turn lanes and just open the inside left turn lane. One of the questions I received from a member of the public was concerning the whether there'd be a flashing yellow light there. And I think the intent is to put a flashing yellow light for left turns at the intersection. The southbound direction, there's also going to be a single left turn lane with a striped out left turn lane that would be in the future potentially converted to a dual left turn lane. And then you can see we're going to put curb and gutter on each side of the road. This part right here where my cursor is going, can you see that, Kyle, on your screen? Will be a raised median. Going through the intersection. We are going to do some improvements to 95th Street going to the east. Down the page is east. And we're going to do a mill and overlay there and do some peripheral improvements. Actually, I'm sorry, I'll go back here to 97th Street. 97th Street will also receive a new signal upgrade at that intersection. 95th Street will, that signal is relatively new, so it will be painted to match the other signals. So it will look like a new signal, but we are not replacing that one completely, just painting it. Then moving on, do some minor geometric improvements to the turn bays. This will all be raised median here. Storm sewer improvements on both sides of the road. We are going to replace the signal at 93rd Street. And continuing on, once again, just mill and overlay on all this. And then at 91st Street, we do plan to replace the signal at that intersection. And we will be not really coordinating the project because it's going to be constructed well in advance of ours. But we have coordinated the design of the 91st Street Trail project to be with this project. So that's, you can see these improvements. And here, there's a whole new trail going in. That will already be complete by the time this project starts. That is a kind of an overview of the project. We're not showing any of the streetlights or storm sewer lines. This is more of a conceptual plan. Once we get further along in the design, we would have a different sort of exhibit to show everyone. Before I go back to the presentation, I do want to welcome, I think we have another panelist, Councilmember Kurt Skoog, I think is on. So Councilmember Skoog, do you have anything you want to introduce about yourself or add to the meeting before we continue?
No, just happy to be here to see the presentation and be aware of what's going on. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Skoog. Switching back screens here. I apologize for the delay. So back to the formal presentation. Just to kind of go over the project schedule briefly. Right now, we're working on the preliminary plans, and we expect that to continue through the fall of 2021. The next step in the project will be to identify and acquire right-of-way and easements. A majority of the work can actually happen within existing road right-of-way and existing utility easements and other easements we have. There will be some right-of-way acquisitions that need to occur. That'll happen basically starting in the winter of 21 through the spring of next year, 2022. And then in 2022 is when the majority of the utility relocations are going to happen. There's a variety of utilities that will need to be relocated, but probably the primary utility relocation will be the burying of the Evergy power lines on a majority of the project, not the entire length of the project, but for a lot of it. So you'll see a lot of that going on next year and all of 2022. That process does take a while. And then in the winter and spring of 2023 is when we're projecting to finish design, put it out to bid, and award the project to the lowest best bidder. Then we will have a pre-construction public meeting to introduce the public to the contractor and to go over phasing and traffic impacts in the spring of 2023. And we anticipate this project being able to be constructed in one construction season. So I have a loose time frame. Right now, it's basically just going to be the year of 2023. That is subject to change, obviously, but that's what we're planning for right now. As far as appraisal and acquisition process goes, right now, as we finish the design, we'll determine what the right-of-way and easement needs are. And then the city will hire a third-party appraiser and acquisition agent to acquire any right-of-way we need. And then at that point in 2022, we do plan on having another public meeting to go over the right-of-way impacts. If there are any, we do anticipate there'll be some. And so at that meeting, we would have the appraiser on board to be able to answer any questions and kind of explain the process, the right-of-way acquisition process. And they would be contacting the affected property owners to discuss the appraisal process and the acquisition process in 2022. As far as utilities go, I did kind of briefly talk about this earlier. Before the construction begins, we plan on getting all the utilities relocated that are going to be in conflict with new signals, new storm sewers. The new power line is going to be in the ground now. So we'll have to adjust other utilities as well. Like I said, the power lines will be buried for portions of the project. And the remaining utilities include water, gas, communication companies, telephone companies, sanitary sewer. Those will all be happening as well. You'll start to see that sometime in mid to late 2022. The biggest question for those on the line probably is going to be how's it going to impact my commute and how's it going to impact my drive? We don't have all those answers yet. We're currently working through the traffic impacts, and once we have a good idea of all of the storm sewer design and what needs to happen, we'll have a lot better idea. There will be lane closures throughout the project. Whether those will be just daily closures or overnight, don't know yet. Probably a little bit of both as the project happens. There may be a full closure of Metcalf for specific work. That work would include stormwater pipe crossings or utility crossings that are necessary. And so if that happens, we would likely try to drill it down to a the non-busiest part of the day and maybe even phase it to be able to open it back up. We realize obviously Metcalf is the major artery through the city of Overland Park. So we realize the impact of a full closure. Unfortunately, it might be necessary to install concrete pipe across Metcalf. And then the last thing I want to say is obviously access to all the properties that are adjacent to the project will be provided at all times. For those of you with multiple entrances, typically we would close one entrance while we constructed the other entrance, and then flip them and open the entrance we just construct and close the other one. For those of you that only have one entrance, we would obviously work to keep that open or give you a alternate access. We obviously realize there's a lot of businesses, high density residential in this area. So that's obviously one of the main concerns we have as a staff as well. Lastly, the restoration of the project. We are including landscaping as part of the project. We haven't identified the extent of that yet, but it'll likely be in the median and on the sides of Metcalf. We do have a budget for that, for landscaping, irrigation, maybe some hardscaping would be included. We will be sodding and or seeding all disturbed areas. This corridor will probably mostly be sodding. I haven't looked at it in depth yet, but probably be sodding that back. And any trees or landscaping that we remove on private property, we would obviously handle that during the acquisition process to make everyone whole if the landscaping is disturbed. There is quite a bit of right of way out there, so I don't anticipate a lot of impacts to to private landscaping, but if there are some, we definitely will do, we'll handle that accordingly. The last slide I have is just with our contact info. We are going to open it up to a question and answer period here shortly, and then we'll show this slide at the end. But once again, my name is Tony Rome. I'm the project manager, so all questions that you have related to the project would come to me. If there's design related questions, the designer is a Finnis. Shane Stanley's the engineer of record. But primarily the questions would come through City of Overland Park, and we would reach out to a Finnis or other partners to get those answered. I do want to make a note to everyone that's on the call that everything you've seen tonight on this presentation will be available on our website. I mean, it'll take a couple days to get it on there. Just with got to get it through our communications staff, and there's some steps we got to go through to do that. But we should have a recording unless something goes wrong with the recording. I don't think it will, but if it did, we wouldn't have it. We should have a recording of the meeting as well as the presentation and the exhibit. Should all be online. The same place you went to get the invite to get on the meeting. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And you should see us in the room. And I do want to, that concludes our formal presentation. So if people don't have any questions, you're really nothing more that we're going to present. But we will now open the meeting up for any questions you might have. I do want to go over the instructions one more time. For those of you that missed the earlier instructions or aren't familiar with the way we run our public meetings nowadays. Attendees who wish to speak will use the raise hand feature of Zoom or *9 to be recognized to speak. I think the *9 is if you're calling in. Attendees will be recognized by the host and unmuted. Once again, our host tonight is Kyle Dickman, sitting across from me. Please state your name and your address prior to asking your question. For the panel, which is everyone in this room and the council members, each time you speak, please state your name so that the other participants and those listening to or observing the meeting will know who is speaking. Our meeting is scheduled to last till 7. I don't know how many participants we have, but we have plenty of time for questions. I guess the only thing I would say is if someone's already answered your question, don't ask the same question over and over again. If you have questions that you feel you'd rather ask offline, feel free to call me directly and I can answer those as well. So at this time, I will turn it over to the host, Kyle, to see if anyone has any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Again, Kyle Dickman, Overland Park staff. I think we just have, at this point, we just have one person that's raised their hand, and it's Paul Lyons. Paul, I'll ask you to unmute, and you can unmute yourself at this point.
Okay, yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Cool. I just have one question, which is, you were talking, Tony, about lane closures. Do you foresee closing, say, all of the southbound lanes and rerouting traffic to the northbound lanes or vice versa? Or are you looking at lane closures being that you'll have one or more lanes going each direction closed and still continue the traffic going in both directions?
Okay, yeah, this Tony Rome, City of Overland Park. Yeah, Paul, the way I see it kind of going with the lane closures is that either one or two of the remaining lanes would still be open while we worked on, like, say, the outside of the road. We would maybe close the outside lane during the day and leave the inside 2 lanes open. That would be for, manipulating vehicles in the outside lane and trucks that are hauling material in or out. At certain times, if we have to have a full closure of Metcalf, I don't believe that we would reroute traffic like you see on I-435 or something where you route people to the other side of the road. I think it would be more of an overnight closure or something in the middle of the day. You know, like after rush hour, we would do it after rush hour ends in the morning and then have it back open for rush hour in the evening. Those details haven't been developed completely. But I don't think that we would have like a long-term full closure to where we would route people to the other side of the road and then route them back. And whether both directions would be closed completely at the same time, probably not. We would probably try to get halfway across the road and then finish it. All of these things I'm saying are not certainties yet, so I'm maybe putting myself out on a limb a little bit. I'm just telling you typically how we would do it.
Okay, and then my next question would be, I appreciate it. Thanks for answering that. My next question would be, do you see the landscaping to be consistent with the way it appears south of 99th Street?
Yes. Yeah, in short, yes. And once again, Tony Rome, City of Overland Park. Yeah, so I kind of forgot to mention that, but for all the attendees on the call, if you just want to know what it's going to look like at the end of the project, obviously Councilmember Lyons made a good point. It's essentially going to look pretty much like it does south of 99th Street. I'm not sure what the median landscaping will look like, whether there'll be the boulders and the heavy landscaping rock in the median or not. We're going to work with the Parks Department to design that. And really kind of whatever they come up with that's in accordance with our engineering practices is what it's going to end up looking like, but it'll look fairly similar to that, Paul.
And it'll have irrigation available and so forth, just like you do south of 99th? Is that right?
That's the goal. Yeah, I mean, we've budgeted for irrigation and landscaping altogether.
Okay, thank you.
Kyle Dickman, City of Overland Park again. Councilmember Lyons, I was not sure if it was you on the line or not. If you want to introduce yourself, please do so. We allow the other council members to.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Happy to do that. I didn't think about that. I'm Paul Lyons. I am the fellow council member from Ward 2 with Kurt Skoog. So I represent Ward 2, basically that whole area that's in question here in terms of the work that's going to be done on Metcalf.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. All right. Okay, again, Kyle Dickman, City of Overland Park staff. It looks like we have another hand raised, Lee and Pam, and I'm sorry, I do not know how to pronounce your last name, but I'm gonna allow you to talk if you have another question that you want to ask.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. My last name's spelled or pronounced Chaka.
Okay.
And my address is 9836 Metcalf Lane. I've got a landscaping issue. In fact, I've talked to Paul about it 2 or 3 times. And that due to the elevation difference between Metcalf Lane and Metcalf Avenue, when you're from the north going to 99th Street, if you could bring up that slide that shows 99th and Metcalf.
Yeah, I'll do that just a second. I'm pulling it up right now.
Anyway, Tom.
How about this right here?
Right, correct.
Yeah.
Now, if you go right at the, you've got Metcalf Lane highlighted for some, I don't know what that designation is, and I'm right across the street from that, almost across from where your cursor is right now.
You're over here?
No, right where you're at, right there. That's my house.
Okay.
What is this, the Metcalf Lane, the highlighted bold?
I think that's the drain.
Yeah, what is that? Is that Any,
Potential sidewalk, but I'm not sure.
This is
Oh.
Shane Stanley with the finish. That's a
Oh,
sidewalk.
okay, because there's no sidewalk. Anyway, if you go south to the very end of that sidewalk, you'll see shrubbery right here. I've talked to Paul about this 2 or 3 times. Because Metcalf Lane is a lower elevation Metcalf Avenue, the shrubbery keeps building up and you can't see over it when you're trying to get in onto 99th Street.
And to turn at Metcalf.
We've got a blind spot as it is with Brook Ridge sign right there, the entrance to Brook Ridge, but it's difficult to see over that, right where your cursor is, over that shrubbery, if it isn't kept very low. And I would just like to bring that up now, so maybe at the time that they're doing landscaping, they can put flowers or something different that'll allow us to be able to see over it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. And oh, there's feedback, but I think my traffic, I know Guy, you were out when we did the walkthrough, but I think Bruce looked at this. We will definitely make a note of it and have our traffic engineers look at that, because they're the ones that deal with sight distance
Okay.
issues. And I don't know if the neighborhood owns that. Landscape.
Well, it's not the neighborhood. Paul can answer. I've had to contact Paul Lyons
Okay.
2 or 3 times to get it taken care of. So I can only assume it's Overland Park property.
You want to allow Paul to speak?
Yeah,
Or do you mute?
so let me,
He raised his hand.
Yeah, this is Paul. I would just say, Lee is exactly right. That's been an issue. And it's owned by the city. And I've had Bailey Patterson and her team go out and fix that several times. So it probably would be a good idea to find a way to solve that problem so it doesn't require resources to go out there every year to solve that.
Okay, I mean, we can definitely look at it. I mean, I didn't know, I think it wasn't in the extents of our project really, but I mean, we can definitely, it's right there. So I mean, if that's the direction we want to go, we can. I don't know. There's usually a backstory behind everything, so I don't know. We'll definitely look into it. And
I'd appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Because we can't see the traffic coming across the intersection when we're on our Metcalf Lane. And it's.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Yeah, I definitely understand what you would be talking about there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
again, this is Kyle Dickman with city staff. Lee and Pam, I get that answers your question, correct? If so, I'll go ahead and mute you.
Yes, it does.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like, again, Kyle with city staff, I don't see any other hands raised at this point. I think the only thing I'd add to that discussion is that, we'll talk with Bailey, our city forester, about that also, just to get her thoughts on it, but appreciate the discussion on that. I do not see any other questions at this point. So I think we'll give it a few moments. But without any other questions, or if there's any other panelists that have anything else to say, we'll plan to end the meeting here momentarily. So I'll give it a few more moments.
And while we're kind of seeing if anyone else has a question, this is Tony Rome, City of Overland Park. I just want to let everyone know that if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My contact's on the website, phone number and email. And my job at the city, I mean, all these council members have worked with me over the years. My job is to take your questions and either put them into practice or answer them somehow. And that's, we're dedicated to doing that. There are a lot of unknowns in the project right now. So, right now the answers may be a little more vague in nature. As we complete the design process, which I really think is going to kind of ramp up here in the next couple months. We have Evergy kind of given us a preliminary alignment of the buried power lines. And so once we have that in our back pocket, we can kind of finalize our design. But as the project goes on, obviously the question and the answers are going to become a lot more clear. You know, I just encourage everyone, I say this at the end of every meeting, as an engineer, I just encourage everyone to drive safely. Don't be on your cell phone. Don't text and drive. It's against the law, first of all, but second, it's dangerous. Be careful out there. There's a lot of bicyclists and pedestrians that we are also users of the roadway. And this project is going to make every effort to make the corridor more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. And just be safe in general with everything. So I have to say that as my closing argument there. So Kyle, any more questions?
No, again, this is Kyle, city staff. I don't see any other questions, so appreciate, looks like Councilmember Lyons did have something else to say. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have one more question. When you replace those traffic signals, I think you said at 93rd Street, you're replacing the traffic signal. I don't remember where else you're going to do it, maybe at 91st, but are you going to put in the flashing yellow signals for left turns, or is that part of this upgrade to these projects, to this project?
Oh, this is Guy Alon. I'm the traffic representative, and yes, it is our intent to put the flashing yellow arrow. For sure, I know 97th Street and 91st Street. I don't recall 93rd Street, but it's very likely that yes.
Okay, because I assumed your plan was over time to replace all of the left turn signals to include the flashing yellow left turn, correct?
Yes, that's
Across the city,
as
yeah.
long as we can do it safely. That's the determination that it's can be done. Then we try to go ahead and schedule that.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, this is Kyle Dickman again with city staff. I see no other hands and no other comments, so we'll go ahead and end the meeting. Thank you very much for attending tonight. Thank you. Oh, looks like we have one more. We do have one more hand raised. It says KAC 1222. It is the person that we see on the screen. So I'll ask you to unmute at this point.
Hi, this is Commissioner Janae Hanslick, and I just wanted to ask if this presentation is being recorded, and will it be available online for those folks who had to miss it?
Yeah, I can take that. This is Tony Rome, City of Overland Park. Yeah, we've been recording the
Tony.
conversation and the presentation. And so those will be available on the website. It does take a few days to get through all the correct channels, pull it down from Zoom and all that, but it should be on the website at the same place that the Zoom link was on there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, with no further questions, then this is again Kyle Dickman, city staff. I will go ahead and end the meeting. And again, appreciate everybody being here tonight, and thank you. I'll end it now.